Vice Chairman. I'd like to engage perhaps Mr. Bernal or Mrs. Perales, please. Are ballots in Texas in the language that a person would need them to have? In other words, English, Spanish, Chinese, are they available?
Yes, sir.
So they're available in the language of people. That's not backwards. That's pretty important. I'd like to ask you, Mrs. Perales, you said that Texas really had been held in discrimination since for a number of years, and implied that Texas was discriminatory in their practices. But isn't it true that pre-clearance was required, and certainly the Clinton and Obama Department of Justice scrutiny of the bills that every time would relate to the laws and the redistricting of Texas would be reviewed by pre-clearance of Democrat and Republican Department of Justices?
Well, Representative, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but I will say that it depended on which president was in office at the time, but certainly doesn't subtract from the fact that when we brought these claims in federal court, and both of the cases that I mentioned were claims successfully brought by MALDEF, my organization, the U.S. Supreme Court held. That's not some administrative review by an agency. The U.S. Supreme Court held that Texas had, in its laws, discriminated against Latino voters. I'd like to add an answer to the one that was provided.
What year was that, ma'am?
Oh, well, the cases that I mentioned in my testimony, 2006 in a case I argued before the U.S. Supreme Court, and also in 2018 on a claim that MALDEF brought related to racial gerrymandering successfully against Latino voters in 2018. The answer that Representative Bernal provided earlier needs to have something added to it, which is that although Texas is forced by federal law to provide bilingual ballots, Section 208 of the Voting Rights Act requires a broader scope of assistance. And the Fifth Circuit tells us that in the case Organization of Chinese Americans. A bilingual ballot is not enough, Representative, and the courts have told us that. Voters who are limited English proficient have the right to take an assistor with them to help them navigate the polling place, interact with poll workers, read and understand.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clarity, can you please address that issue about what the bills that would be before us? I have a disabled son. I have been with him. He marked his own ballot, but I helped him. Could you please talk to us about what is before us with these bills related to what the gentlewoman speaks of?
Sure. In Texas, I think we have, and I'll use this word in its truest sense, I think very liberal laws as it relates to the disabled or people who be able to vote. So in the instance of your son, we have curbside voting. It'll be available throughout the state, all of our 254 counties, where they can drive up and an election official will come out and help assist and provide that ballot and help those people who are eligible for curbside voting to be able to vote. I think that's been our law for some time. Likewise, those individuals are available. They have the right, unlike most other states, I think in the union, to cast a mail-in ballot. They register, they request the mail-in ballot, and it will come to them, and they can vote and have that returned. And if they choose to, they can actually bring it back in and have that ballot dropped.
Thank you very much. Representative Clardy, are you aware of the social worker at a state assisted living center in Limestone County, Texas, where this person has been charged with 134 felony counts of acting as an agent of election fraud by putting in applications and forging signatures? Are you aware of that, sir? And would this be addressed in the new law? This happened in November of 2020.
Congressman Sessions, I'm not familiar with the specifics of that case. And again, as you know, it's really inappropriate for us to comment on pending matters, but I can tell you that in addition to that case, there's another pending, there's 50 cases pending right now. And that's just from the Office of Attorney General that have hundreds and hundreds of counts that exist. There's another approaching 400 cases are being investigated. Those 50 cases I mentioned, those have been presented to a grand jury and they've been true billed and indictments have issued. There's a case just north of me and Greg.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'd ask unanimous consent to engage in the record and place in the record these 400-some cases that are being presently handled in the state of Texas for voter fraud.
Great, without any objection at all under the,
Thank you.
the current voting fraud statute. I now would invite